ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಎಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಇರು, ಎಂತಾದರೂ ಇರು, ಎಂದೆಂದಿಗೂ ನೀ ಕನ್ನಡವಾಗಿರು. ಕನ್ನಡವೇ ಸತ್ಯ, ಕನ್ನಡವೇ ನಿತ್ಯ. ಕುವೆಂಪು ಅವರು ಬರೆದಿರುವ ಈ ಹಾಡಿನ ಸಾಲಿನೊಂದಿಗೆ ಇಂದಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಆರಂಭಿಸೋಣ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡ ರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವದ ಹಾರ್ದಿಕ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳು. ನಾನು ಸ್ವಾತಿ. ಕನ್ನಡ ರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಯಾಕೆ ಆಚರಿಸ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದೆರಡು ಮಾತುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ. 1956ನೇ ಇಸ್ವಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹುತೇಕ ಕನ್ನಡವನ್ನೇ ಮಾತನಾಡುವಂತಹ ಅನೇಕ ದಕ್ಷಿಣ ಭಾರತದ ಪ್ರಾಂತ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಒಂದೆಡೆ ವಿಲೀನಗೊಳಿಸಲಾಯಿತು. ಹೀಗೆ ಒಂದೆಡೆ ವಿಲೀನಗೊಳಿಸಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅಂತ ನಾಮಕರಣವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಲಾಯಿತು. ಅಂದಿನಿಂದ ಇಂದಿನವರೆಗೆ ಆ ದಿನದ ಸಂಕೇತವಾಗಿ ನವೆಂಬರ್ 1ರಂದು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವ ಅಥವಾ ಕನ್ನಡ ರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವವನ್ನು ಆಚರಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಕನ್ನಡ ಭಾಷೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಶ್ರೀಮಂತವಾದದ್ದು. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ರನ್ನ, ಜನ್ನ, ಪಂಪ, ಬಸವಣ್ಣ, ಅಲ್ಲಮಪ್ರಭು, ಸರ್ವಜ್ಞ, ಶಿವರಾಮ ಕಾರಂತರು, ಕುವೆಂಪು, ದ ರಾ ಬೇಂದ್ರೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಹಲವಾರು ಸಾಹಿತಿ ಕವಿಗಳ ಕೊಡುಗೆ ಇದೆ. ಭಾಷೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ದಿನದ ಆಚರಣೆಗಷ್ಟೇ ಸೀಮಿತವಾಗಿರಬಾರ್ದು. ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನದ ಭಾಗವಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಜೀವನ ಶೈಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಅಂಶವಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ನಾವು ವಚನ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಆಯ್ದ ವಚನಗಳನ್ನು ಓದುವುದರ ಮೂಲಕ ಆಚರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವಿರಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಆರಂಭ ಮಾಡೋದು ದೀಪವನ್ನು ಬೆಳಗುವುದರ ಮೂಲಕ. ಇವತ್ತು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಗೀತೆಯ ಮೂಲಕ ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪವನ್ನು ಹಚ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. IM-Tech ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇಯರ್ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಸುಪ್ರೀತ್ DS ಕರ್ಕಿ ಅವರು ಬರೆದಿರುವ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಾಡನ್ನು ಹಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮೊದಲು ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಮಾತನ್ನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಅದೇನೆಂದರೆ, ಯಾರೇ ಇರಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನು ಪ್ರೀತಿಸಬೇಕು. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಬೇರೆ ಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನು ಗೌರವಿಸಲೇಬೇಕು. ಹಾಗಿದ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ನೆಲ, ಜಲ ಹಾಗೂ ಮಾತೃಭಾಷೆಗೆ ನೀಡುವಂತಹ ನಿಜವಾದಂತಹ ಗೌರವ. ಹೀಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡ ರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವದ ಹಾರ್ದಿಕ ಶುಭಾಶಯಗಳು.
ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ, ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ, ಕರುನಾಡ ದೀಪ, ಸಿರಿನುಡಿಯ ದೀಪ, ಒಲವೆತ್ತಿ ತೋರುವ ದೀಪ. ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ, ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ. ಬಹುದಿನಗಳಿಂದ ಮೈಮರೆವೆಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿರುವ ಕೊಳೆಯ ಕೊಚ್ಚೇವು, ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಕಂಪು ಸೂಸಲು ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ಣ ಚಾಚೇವು. ಬಹುದಿನಗಳಿಂದ ಮೈಮರೆವೆಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿರುವ ಕೊಳೆಯ ಕೊಚ್ಚೇವು, ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಕಂಪು ಸೂಸಲು ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ಣ ಚಾಚೇವು. ನಡುನಾಡೆ ಇರಲಿ ಗಡಿನಾಡೆ ಇರಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಕಳೆಯ ಕೆಚ್ಚೇವು. ನಡುನಾಡೆ ಇರಲಿ ಗಡಿನಾಡೆ ಇರಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಕಳೆಯ ಕೆಚ್ಚೇವು. ಮರೆತೇವು ಮರವ, ತೆರೆದೇವು ಮನವ, ಎರೆದೇವು ಒಲವ, ಹಿಡಿ ನೆನಪ. ನರ ನರವನೆಲ್ಲ ಹುರಿಗೊಳಿಸಿ ಹೊಸೆದು ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ, ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ, ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ. ಕರುನಾಡ ದೀಪ, ಸಿರಿನುಡಿಯ ದೀಪ, ಒಲವೆತ್ತಿ ತೋರುವ ದೀಪ. ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ, ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ. ಆ ಕಲ್ಪನೆಯ ಕಣ್ಣು ಅರಿವನ ಕಸಾಲು ದೀಪಗಳ ಬೆಳಕ ಬೀರೇವು ಹಚ್ಚಿರುವ ದೀಪದಲ್ಲಿ ತಾಯ ರೂಪ ಅಚ್ಚಳಿಯದಂತೆ ತೋರೇವು ಕಲ್ಪನೆಯ ಕಣ್ಣು ಅರಿವನ ಕಸಾಲು ದೀಪಗಳ ಬೆಳಕ ಬೀರೇವು ಹಚ್ಚಿರುವ ದೀಪದಲ್ಲಿ ತಾಯ ರೂಪ ಅಚ್ಚಳಿಯದಂತೆ ತೋರೇವು ಒಡಲೊಳಲ ಕೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಕಿಡಿಗಳನ್ನು ಗಡಿನಾಡಿನಾಚೆ ತೂರೇವು ಒಡಲೊಳಲ ಕೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಕಿಡಿಗಳನ್ನು ಗಡಿನಾಡಿನಾಚೆ ತೂರೇವು ಒಮ್ಮಿರಲು ಪ್ರೀತಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿಯದು ಭೀತಿ ನಾಡೊಲವೆ ನೀತಿ ಹಿಡಿ ನೆನಪ ಮನೆ ಮನೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಕರುನಾಡ ದೀಪ ಸಿರಿನುಡಿಯ ದೀಪ ಒಲವೆತ್ತಿ ತೋರುವ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ನಮ್ಮವರು ಗಳಿಸಿದ ಹೆಸರುಳಿಸಲು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಂದು ಗೂಡೇವು ನಮ್ಮೆದೆಯ ಮಿಡಿಯು ಈ ಮಾತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತೆಯನು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೇವು ನಮ್ಮವರು ಗಳಿಸಿದ ಹೆಸರುಳಿಸಲು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಂದು ಗೂಡೇವು ನಮ್ಮೆದೆಯ ಮಿಡಿಯುವಿ ಮಾತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತೆಯನು ಪೂಜೆ ಮಾಡೇವು ನಮ್ಮುಸಿರು ತೀಡುವಿ ನಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಂಗಲ್ಯ ಗೀತ ಹಾಡೇವು ನಮ್ಮುಸಿರು ತೀಡುವಿ ನಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಂಗಲ್ಯ ಗೀತ ಹಾಡೇವು ತೊರೆದೇವು ಮರುಳ ಕೆಡೆದೇವು ಇರುಳ ಪಡೆದೇವು ತಿರುಳ ಹಿಡಿ ನೆನಪ ಕರುಳೆಂಬ ಕುಡಿಗೆ ಮಿಂಚನ್ನೆ ಮುಡಿಸಿ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಕರುನಾಡ ದೀಪ ಸಿರಿನುಡಿಯ ದೀಪ ಒಲವೆತ್ತಿ ತೋರುವ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ ಹಚ್ಚೇವು ಕನ್ನಡದ ದೀಪ.
Thank you very much, Supreet, for a wonderful rendition, and thank you, Swati, for kickstarting this session today, the special Rajyotsava special session. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining for this special session on a Sunday evening. Today we have Professor Srinivas Vivek with us, who would be touching upon the Vachana Sahitya. Dr. Srinivas Vivek is an assistant professor at IIIT Bangalore. He was previously a postdoctoral research associate in the cryptography group of the Department of Computer Science at University of Bristol. He obtained his PhD from the University of Luxembourg. He is interested in the interplay between the theory and implementation aspects of cryptographic systems. His main research interests are in the design, analysis, and implementation of side channel countermeasures and homomorphic encryption schemes. His other research interests include algorithmic number theory, and he's also a keen follower of the Kannada Sahitya. So over to you, Srinivas. Srinivas would also be joined by one of our PhD scholars, Pawan Idalagi, towards the later part of his talk. Thank you, Srinivas, and over to you.
Thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for taking this initiative to start this lecture series. So it's been very well received by the IIITB community. So, what's the link you were telling about my research interest? So I know after preparing for this Vachana Sahitya talk, I realized that even Vachanas are quite cryptic, so that it's not so easy to grasp the hidden meanings in the Vachanas. So glad that there's some, connection, however vague it is. So, and also thanks to Suprit for the nice inauguration song. So it brings back my memories from undergraduate days at NIT Surathkal. So 13 years ago, I remember singing this song on Kannada Rajyotsava in a group. So the same song. So yeah, it's something very nice, special. Right. So first, before I share my screen, I think I should confess that my knowledge of Kannada is I have a humble background in Kannada. So I have done my schooling. Throughout my schooling, I have studied Kannada as my second language in a CBSE school. So, and then I have been reading a bit, and I have lived for almost 4/5 of my life so in Karnataka. So hope that qualifies me to talk a bit on Kannada and Kannada literature. So let me share my screen. So I'll be speaking on Vachana Sahitya. So of Vachanas of famous 12th century trio Basavanna, Allamaprabhu, and Akka Mahadevi. And Pavan will be speaking on Sarvagnya, the poet from 16th century. So the structure of my talk is as follows. I'll give a quick introduction, very brief introduction to the Kannada language, and then spend about 10 minutes each for each of the three poets. So I also speak on briefly about their life history as well, because I think their life's history is as interesting as their Vachana. And talking only about the Vachanas could become monotonous. So, but yet I'll try to squeeze everything within say 40-45 minutes. And then I can handle my questions, and hopefully Pawan will be able to join by then. So Kannada language has over 2,500 years of history. So it's the administrative language of the state of Karnataka, and it has a large speaking community in India and abroad. It's also an official language in the 8th schedule to the Constitution of India. So it's spoken about by 4 crore native speakers, and by another 1 crore as the second language or the third language. So in 2008, it was designated as one of the classical languages in India. So this is the Kannada script. It's quite similar to the Telugu script. So we have 49 letters in total. So 13 vowels, the swaras, 2 yoga vahas or semi-consonants, and then remaining 34 consonants called vyanjanas, split into vargiya vyanjanas, and then avargiya vyanjana. So we have the as in Rishi. We also had Ru, but not long ago that was taken off as become obsolete. So we have A, I, O also, and we also have the consonant La. So in the last line, you see the letters 1 to 9 and then 0 digits written in Kannada script. So Kannada script evolved from Brahmi script. So some quick facts about Kannada and Karnataka. So what you see here is the cultural flag of the state of Karnataka. Of course, the constitutional flag of India is the tricolor. Only that flag enjoys the constitutional status, but this flag is accepted as the cultural flag. So what you see in the middle is the emblem of Karnataka. So in color you see it right here. So it's called. So it's inspired from the from the emblem of the erstwhile kingdom of Mysore, ruled by the Wadayars. So what you see here is the lion capital, and then here you see a red shield charged with a two-headed bird called Ganda Berunda and bordered in blue. And then the shield is flanked on either side by red maned yellow lion elephants. And at the bottom, you see Satyameva Jayate. So Jaya Bharata Jananiya Tanujate is the official anthem of Karnataka, and it translates into English as "Victory to you, Mother Karnataka, the daughter of Mother India." So it was composed by Rashtrakavi Kuvempu. It's also a Gnanapith awardee. On the right, you see an old 10 rupee note, and Kannada appears. Kannada script appears at the fourth position. And then here you see the Wikipedia logo, and then the bottom you see V written in the Kannada script. So as I mentioned before, Kannada has about over 2,500 years of history. One of the oldest available inscriptions is the Halmidi inscription, and it's one of the well-known inscriptions also. So dated to around 450 AD. So by that time, Kannada had become an administrative language. So even older inscriptions are continues to be found. And also an Ashokan rock edict found at Brahmagiri, so dated to 230 BC, also contains words that are identifiable in the Kannada language. Few Tamil inscriptions dating back to 3rd and 1st century BC also contain words of Kannada influence. Roman historian Pliny the Elder and Greek philosopher Ptolemy, they also refer to places and rivers having possibly Kannada origin names. So this is the picture of the Halmidi inscription. Halmidi is a village in the Hassan district. So the history of Kannada language can be broadly divided into three phases. The old Kannada called Hadegannada, middle Kannada called Nadu Kannada, and then the modern Kannada called Hosagannada. So old Kannada spans the period 450 to 1200 AD. Some well-known poets from this period are Kring Nripatunga Amoghavarsha the one, and then we have poets Pampa, Ranna, Harihara, Raghavanka, and others. From the middle Kannada, so Kumaravyasa is a very well-known poet. So then we have Vachana Sahitya flourished during that period. So thanks to Basavanna Lapramo Kamadevi and others. And then also Dasa Sahitya also flourished in about 15th century. So one of the leading names is Purandara Dasa, who is considered the father of Carnatic music. So Kanakadasa, Vyasatirtha, and so on. So modern Kannada from 1700 AD to present is the period of modern Kannada called Hosagannada. It has been influenced by many movements, Navodaya, Navya, Navyottara, Dalita, Bandaya, so on. And the Kannada language writers, they have received so far 8 Gnanapith awards. So the object of the topic of today's lecture is Vachana Sahitya. I'm not my source, my material has come from many sources. So it's not. I'm not reading out from a particular book, as you could have probably figured out by now. So literally, Vachana means talk, speech, or prose, but it's a poetry in Kannada language. And unlike traditional poetry, it is not bound by rigid rules of grammar. This style of writing is unique to Kannada, and as it does not imitate any aspect of any other language, the content is based on purely on the poet's self-experience. Jedara Dasimaya from 12th century is considered as the first Vachanakara. It flourished in the 12th century as part of the Sharana, or precisely Shiva Sharana movement that led to the formation of the sect called Lingism or Veerashaivism. And Sharanas, Vachanas are their experiences, have narrated their experiences in the process of realization of God, but it's not only on devotion, but they also touch upon all aspects of life, including the social, cultural, and political aspects. So more than 200 Vachanakaras, or Vachana writers, are also called Vachana Kara Vachana Karti. They have been recorded, and more than 30 of them are women. So one of the most famous among them is Akkamahadevi. So we'll see her vachanas later. And the Muktayakka, Neelalochane, Gaganambike, they are all women vachana writers. So the first poet that we will talk about is Basavanna. So he was a 12th century statesman, philosopher, poet, politician, social reformer, and a Lingayat saint. He lived in the reign of the Kalyani Chalukya and Kalachuri dynasty in North Karnataka in the 12th century. He is also known by the names Basava, Basaveshwara, and also Bhakti Bandhari. So his signature name or Ankita Nama is Kudala Sangama Deva. It literally means the Lord of the Meeting Rivers. Approximately 1,500 of his vachanas have survived. So the source of information about Basavanna's life history and his works is the 13th century Telugu poem called Basava Purana by Palukuriki Somanatha. And 12th century Kannada poet Harihara work called Basava Raja Deva Ragale. So it contains only about 13 sections of the total of 25 sections are available. So hence Basava Purana is considered one of the main sources. Basava Purana is also considered as a sacred text by the Lingayat community. So this is the portrait of Basavanna. So what you see on the right is the Kudala Sangam, the place called Kudala Sangama Deva. So it's located at the conflux of the Krishna and Malaprabha rivers. So I've written a brief, made notes of the brief biography of Basavanna. Let me read it out. Basavanna was born in Bhagewadi of Bijapur, now called Vijayapura district in Karnataka in 1106 AD. He was born into a traditional Brahmin family of Madarasa and Madalambike. Basavanna learned Sanskrit during his early days, and there are records of his Brahminical initiation ceremony called Upanayana in 1114 AD. Basavanna had always been devoted to Shiva, and by the time he was 16, he had decided to spend his life in the worship and service of Shiva. He found the caste system and ritualism shackling and senseless, and he tore off his sacred thread. So Basavanna did oppose the rituals of the Sanatana Dharma. He left Bhagewadi and went to Kudala Sangama. At Kudala Sangama, he found his guru named Ishanya Guru and studied Vedas and other religious texts and began the worship of his Ishtalinga. Then, after a few years, he went to Mangalavede and became the local chieftain, became the treasurer of the local chieftain named Bijjala. So treasurer is also known in Kannada Bhandari and other Indian languages. But in the process, he also became a treasurer of Lord's love and hence got the name Bhakti Bhandari. He married Ganga Devi and Mai Devi. So they also, in other sources, the names of his wives are called Gangambike and Neelambike. So he had two wives. When Bijjala became a king, his minister Basavanna too moved along with Bijjala to Kalyana. At Kalyana, Basavanna met his fellow devotees Chenna Basavanna, Siddharama, Allamaprabhu, Madivala Machaya, and others. He served and took great care of the devotees coming to the Kalyana. He pursued many social reforms and established the famous Anubhava Mantapa that translates to Hall of Experience. So where great saints met for dialogue and communion. He is also said to have possessed Siddhi or miraculous powers or occult powers. A new community with egalitarian ideals, discarding caste, class, and gender grew, challenging the orthodoxy. Political crisis grew. An inter-community wedding towards the end of the life of Basavanna, an inter-community wedding sparked off a major political crisis, and the king Bijjala punished the fathers of the bride and bridegroom by blinding them. Extremist youth, they attacked the king and assassinated him. Basavanna had tried hard to convert the extremists, and his failure had left Kalyana and returned to Kudala Sangama. And he died at Kudala Sangama around 1116 AD. So that's very briefly the biography of Basavanna. And his legacy continues to exist today, and he has millions of followers. So during when Abdul Kalam was the president, so Basaveshwara statue, he inaugurated the Basaveshwara statue in the Parliament of India, and Prime Minister Modi, what you see on the left. Yeah, so here you see PM Modi unveiling the statue of Basaveshwara on the banks of River Thames in the Lambeth Borough of London in 2015. So let me read out two popular vachanas and their translations of Basavanna. The first one depicts three distinct aspects: the humility of devotee, sanctity of the body, and dynamism. Ullavaru Shivalaya Maduvaru, Nanenu Madali Padavanaya. The rich will make temples for Shiva. What shall I, a poor man, do? Ennakale Kamba, Dehave Degula, Shirave Honna Kadashavaya. My legs are pillars, the body of the shrine, the head cupola or pinnacle of gold. Kudal Sangama Deva Kelaya, Stavar Kalivuntu, Jangamak Kalivilla. Listen, O Lord Kudal Sangama, things standing shall fall, but the moving ever shall stay. So there are elaborate commentaries on these vachanas, but in the interest of time, so let me recite another popular vachana of Basavanna. Kadabeda, Kolabeda, Usiya Nudiyalu Beda, Muniya Beda, Anyarige Asaya Padabeda, Anna Bandisa Beda, Idira Haliyalu Beda, Ide Antaranga Shuddhi, Ide Bahiranga Shuddhi, Ide Namma Kudala Sangama, Devara Nolisuva Pari. So what it says is, do not steal, do not kill, do not lie, do not be angry, do not be scornful of others, do not glorify yourself, do not insult others. So these are the means to inward purity. These are the means to outward purity. These are the means to please the Lord Kudala Sangama Deva. The 7 don'ts highlighted here in this vachana are often referred to as the 7 commandments of Veerashaivism. So these commandments guide one towards achieving an austere life. So that's very briefly about Basavanna. So next, I'll talk about Allama Prabhu. So Allama Prabhu was a 12th century mystic, a Lingayat saint and a poet. He's also a contemporary of Basavanna. He propagated the unitary consciousness of self and Shiva. So his signature name is Guheshwara. Literally, it means the Lord of Caves. So approximately 1300 of his vachanas have survived, and the source of information about Allama Prabhu is from Harihara. His work is titled as Prabhu Devara Ragade. Ragade is a meter in Kannada. And the Vijayanagara poet Chamarasas Prabhulinga Lile. So he was a 15th century poet. So this is the portrait of Allama Prabhu. So let me read out briefly his life history. Allama Prabhu's life events are quite thrilling. Allama Prabhu was born in Balligave village of Shivamogga district in Karnataka. He was born into a family of artists, and he excelled in playing mridangam. Once he was playing mridangam at Gogeshwara temple, he saw Dhanadatta's daughter Kamalate. Kamalate translates to love's tendril, and falls in love with her. The society does not permit their marriage, and soon later Kamalate dies of fever. Allama is heartbroken and devastated and roams around aimlessly, calling out for the dead Kamalate. Once he was sitting in an out-of-town grove, scratching the ground idly with his toenail, he saw the tip of something that later turned out to be the golden Kalasha, the pinnacle of a lost temple. He got the temple excavated and dared to enter the doors of the temple. He saw a yogi inside the temple, and he later names the yogi in his works as Animishaya, because he had kept open his eyes without blinking. So just like celestials. The yogi had a Shivalinga on his palm and was staring at it eternally. When Allama comes nearby, the yogi Animishaya hands over the linga to Allama and falls dead. And at that instant, Allama becomes enlightened and he sees clearly what his future is. Allama, with the linga on his palm, walks away only to return a few decades later as Allama Prabhu. So we know hardly anything about what happened in about say 2 decades. So when he left and came back enlightened. So Allama Prabhu, or the master as he was revered by saints in the Anubhava Mantapa at Kalyana, he gave full support to Basavanna's movement. Allama is also said to have acquired Yoga Siddhi or occult powers. So it is known in the yogic lore that in the course of yogic practices, the yogi acquires certain occult powers that are indications of yogi's progressive release from the conditions of earthly existence. So the following is a well-known incident in the life of Allama concerning his occult powers. So Goraksha, the leader of Siddhas, had a magical body, invulnerable as a diamond. Allama mocked at his body, his vanity. Legend says that Goraksha gave a sword to Allama and invited him to cut his body. Allama swung the sword, but the sword clanged on the solid diamond body of Goraksha. Not a hair was severed. Goraksha laughed in pride, and Allama too laughed at his show off and invited to try the same on him. Goraksha came at Allama, swung the sword, and the sword went through Allama's body as if it were mere space. Such were Allama's powers of self-emptying or Shunyasthiti. Goraksha was stunned, and this was the beginning of Goraksha's enlightenment. Legend says that Allama left his mortal body in Kadalivana near Sri Shaila in Andhra Pradesh. So now we'll quickly look at 2 vachanas of Allama Prabhu. So this vachana talks about making the best use of one's life to seek the ultimate realization. Kotta kudureya ನೇರಲರಿಯದೆ ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಕುದುರೆಯ ಬಯಸುವವರು ವೀರರೂ ಅಲ್ಲ ಧೀರರೂ ಅಲ್ಲ. Those who not knowing to ride the given horse wish for another horse are neither brave nor courageous. ಇದು ಕಾರಣ ನೆರೆ 3 ಲೋಕವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಹಲ್ಲಣವ ಹೊತ್ತುಕೊಂಡು ಬಳಲುತ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಗುಹೇಶ್ವರನೆಂಬ ಲಿಂಗವನವರೆತ್ತ ಬಲ್ಲರೋ. Due to this reason, people of all 3 worlds are tiring themselves out carrying the saddle. How would such people realize Lord Guheshwara? So here the saddle, that is the seat put on the horse back. So people are, they are waiting for the right horse to come. So here also in the meaning, saddle refers to the physical body that is considered to be separate from the one's true self or the Atma. So one clearly sees here that his thoughts are very similar to the Vedantic thoughts. So in the second vachana, Allama wonders about the relationship between 2 sets of disparate entities to drive home the catalyst needed to accomplish the merger. ಎತ್ತಣ ಮಾಮರ ಎತ್ತಣ ಕೋಗಿಲೆ ಎತ್ತಣಿಂದ ಎತ್ತ ಸಂಬಂಧವಯ್ಯ ಬೆಟ್ಟದ ನೆಲ್ಲಿಕಾಯಿ ಸಮುದ್ರದೊಳಗಣ ಉಪ್ಪು ಎತ್ತಣಿಂದೆತ್ತ ಸಂಬಂಧವಯ್ಯ ಗುಹೇಶ್ವರ ಲಿಂಗಕ್ಕೆಯೂ ಎನಗೆಯೂ ಎತ್ತಣಿಂದೆತ್ತ ಸಂಬಂಧವಯ್ಯ. The mango tree and the nightingale bird, how are they related? The mountain gooseberry and the salt from the sea, how are they related? Lord Guheshwara, Linga and me, how are we related? So the nightingale bird gets attracted to the mango tree during spring. So spring acts as the catalyst here. The mountain gooseberry being astringent, but when combined from the salt from a far off sea, the taste becomes very good. So similarly, now what is the catalyst that is needed to accomplish the merger of the individual or the Jivatma with the Lord Paramatma? So that catalyst is the awakening of the one's consciousness or the awareness. So that's again briefly about Allama Prabhu. So then is Akka Mahadevi. She was a younger contemporary of Basavanna and Allama Prabhu, also lived in the 12th century. She was a poet and a Lingayat saint. She was one of the early female poets of the Kannada literature. Her signature name is Chenna Mallikarjuna. Chenna means lovely. Mallikarjuna is Lord Shiva. So one could also roughly translate it as lovely Lord, white as jasmine. So 400 of our vachanas are available today. Again, Harihara and Chamarasa's biography, they are the source of information about Akka Mahadevi life and works. So here is a photo of a statue of Akka Mahadevi that's installed at her birthplace Udutadi. So let me read out the life history of Akka Mahadevi. So she was born in Udutadi, near the birthplace of Allama Prabhu. Her parents were ardent devotees of Shiva. The form of Shiva at Udutadi temple was Mallikarjuna. At a young age, she fell in love with Shiva and accepted him in the form of Chenna Mallikarjuna as her husband. Kaushika, the chieftain of the land, saw her one day and fell in love with her. In addition to being only human, he disqualified himself further by being a non-believer. Yet he persuaded her, or rather her parents. So eventually Mahadevi and Kaushika, they married, but it must have been a trying marriage due to stark contrast in their nature. At one point, Kaushika appears to have tried to force his will on her, and so she leaves him, cutting clean her relations with the whole world of men. She left her birthplace and parents and threw away even modesty and clothing in a gesture of ultimate social defiance and complete detachment. She wandered about covered in her long hair or tresses. She walks towards Anubhava Mantapa at Kalyana, and a remarkable interaction happens with the saints there, including Basavanna and Allama Prabhu. Eventually, she left Kalyana and wandered off toward Sri Shaila and lost herself. She is recognized by her fellow saints as the most poetic of them all. So next, let me read out yet another well-known poem by Akka Mahadevi. So in this vachana, Akka Mahadevi portrays her realization of how one must stay equanimous while handling life situation. ಬೆಟ್ಟದ ಮೇಲೊಂದು ಮನೆಯ ಮಾಡಿ ಮೃಗಂಗಳಿ ಗಂಜಿಡದೊಡೆಂತಯ್ಯ. It's like a tongue twister. ಸಮುದ್ರದ ತಡಿಯಲೊಂದು ಮನೆಯ ಮಾಡಿ ನೊರೆ ತೆರೆ ಗಳಿಗಂಜಿದೊಡೆಂತಯ್ಯ. ತಂತೆಯೊಳಗೊಂದು ಮನೆಯ ಮಾಡಿ ಶಬ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾಚಿದೊಡೆಂತಯ್ಯ. ಚೆನ್ನ ಮಲ್ಲಿಕಾರ್ಜುನ ದೇವ ಕೇಳಯ್ಯ. ಲೋಕದೊಳಗೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ಬಳಿಕ ಸ್ತುತಿ ನಿಂದೆಗಳು ಬಂದರೆ ಮನದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋಪವ ತಾಳದೆ ಸಮಾಧಾನಿಯಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. After building a house on the mountain, how can you be afraid of wild animals around it? After building a house on the seashore, how can you be afraid of lofty waves? After building a house in the flea market, how can you be concerned with the noise? Oh Lord, Chenna Mallikarjuna, listen. While born and living in this world, if praise and criticism come along, you have to face them without getting angry and maintaining the calmness of mind. So another vachana is also very popular. In this vachana, Akka Mahadevi tells us that it is not enough to do only rituals, but also must keep one's body, mind and senses purified. Tanu karagadavaralli majjanava nolleya neeno, mana karagadavaralli pushpava nolleya neeno, ಕುದುಳಿಗರಲ್ಲದವರಲ್ಲಿ ಗಂಧಾಕ್ಷತೆಯ ನೊಲ್ಲೆಯಯ್ಯ ನೀನು, ಅರಿವು ಕಣ್ತೆರೆಯದವರಲ್ಲಿ ಆರತಿಯ ನೊಲ್ಲೆಯಯ್ಯ ನೀನು, ಭಾವಶುದ್ಧವಿಲ್ಲದವರಲ್ಲಿ ಧೂಪವ ನೊಲ್ಲೆಯಯ್ಯ ನೀನು, ಪರಿಣಾಮಿಗಳಲ್ಲದವರಲ್ಲಿ ನೈವೇದ್ಯವ ನೊಲ್ಲೆಯಯ್ಯ ನೀನು, ತ್ರಿಕರಣ ಶುದ್ಧವಿಲ್ಲದವರಲ್ಲಿ ತಾಂಬೂಲವ ನೊಲ್ಲೆಯಯ್ಯ ನೀನು, ಹೃದಯ ಕಮಲ ಅರಳದವರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಲೊಲ್ಲೆಯ್ಯ ನೀನು, ಎನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನುಂಟೆಂದು ಕರಸ್ಥಲವ ನಿಂಬುಗೊಂಡೆ ಹೇಳ ಚೆನ್ನಮಲ್ಲಿಕಾರ್ಜುನಯ್ಯ. So it translates like this: you will not accept the abhisheka or the bathing ritual from those who do not melt their bodies. You will not accept the offering of flowers from those who do not melt their minds. You will not accept the offering of scented water and yellowed rice from those who are not of calm disposition. You will not accept the waving of lighted camphor from those whose inner eye has not opened by wisdom. You will not accept the perfume smoke from those whose emotions are not purified. You will not accept the offering of food items from those who have not ripened in wisdom. You will not accept the betel leaf delicacy from those whose three instruments of perception, also known as trikarana, the intellect, mind, and senses, if the perception are not purified. You will not intend to stay with those whose heart lotus has not bloomed yet. What did you find in me that you happily settled in the palm of my hand? Tell me, oh Channamallikarjuna. So that's all I have about the three poets. So before moving on to Pawan's lecture, so first I would like to thank the following people and sources. So I would like to thank my aunt, Srimati Usha Srinivas, for providing detailed notes on this topic. So she has about 3 decades of experience teaching the language at the college level. And then the English translations, I borrowed it from A.K. Ramanujan's book, Speaking of Shiva. And here are other sources where I borrowed the image, translations, and the commentaries. So I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Professor Srinivas. Would you like to take some questions now or after Pawan's?
I'll be happy to answer questions now.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Professor Srinivas for his wonderful talk?
So I think Venkata Prasad has an interesting question or question. So, sir, Basavanna Alam Prabhu and Akkamahadevi are worshipped as God. The saints are worshipped also. Okay, I think it mainly depends on one's belief. So even of course they also enjoy the semi divine status. So I think it's left to individual how they view it.
Yeah, so I don't see any questions as such. So
anyway, thanks for listening. So that's more important.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you, Vivek. I hope you are around because
I'll be there. Yes.
Some questions, comments while Pawan's talk goes on.
Perfect. Great.
Respected sir and my dear friends, I would like to thank for providing me the opportunity to chant 5 Tripadis of the great Saint Sarvajna of 16th century, who lived in the native called Masur, which comes near Haveri district. Basically, Sarvajna was a Jangama, one who travels around the world and chants the mantras of the god and writes the experiences to teach the mankind. So, as you are seeing, he was called as pragmatist. So this is the most important thing of this saint. So he wrote his experiences rather than the ideal or ideologies which somebody should cannot follow. So he wrote the exact experiences which he saw or he did go through. So happy Kannada Rajotsava to all my dear friends of Kannada and Tamil Telugu friends and rest of the languages which are there in India. So Kannada is just one feeling of oneness. So with this, let me show you a photo of Sarvajna. So this shows that he is a Jangama and he traveled to various cities or the places of the Karnataka, and he wrote his experiences in the form of 3 lines of poem, and they are called as Tripadis. And this is the statue which is there in the place called Kudala Sangama in Karnataka. So if you type Sarvajna in Google, this is the pic which you find everywhere. So without wasting much time, let me chant the first Tripadi. Okay, I beg pardon if I pronounce it wrongly. Let me try my best. ಊರಿಂಗೆ ದಾರಿಯನು ಆರು ತೋರಿದರೇನು ಸಾರಾಯದ ನಿಜವ ತೋರುತ ನಾರಾಡದೇನು ಸರ್ವಜ್ಞ. This means anybody can tell the address of the place which you want to go, but the Guru, your father or a mother or a teacher who tells the truth of livelihood, like death, birth, honesty, all the 5 Pancha Mahabhuta, the importance of dana, this truth, heavenly truth, one who tells that truth or guides you towards that truth or the light, he is the real Guru. This is what he meant to understand. Tripadi 2. ಅಂದಕನು ನಿಂದಿರಲು ಮುಂದೆ ಬಪ್ಪರ ಕಾಣ ಬಂದರೆ ಬಾ ಎಂದೆನರ್ಪದ ಗರುವಿಯ ದಂದುಗವೆ ಬೇಡ ಸರ್ವಜ್ಞ. So his writings, okay, basically they are in Hale Kannada, little bit kind of a tongue twister, but they don't have any hidden meaning. They are very straightforward. This is the beauty of Sarvajna. So what he meant to say is, a blind cannot see the person standing in front of him, but the person who can see, who have with his eyes the whole world, God has given the eyes, and he is not blind, but with his ego, a big curtain or a black shadow is in front of him, with which he cannot see. If you want to win the world, you should be free from ego. So with ego, you cannot go anywhere. Without ego, you can go with everybody wherever you can to achieve the goal. Tripadi 3. ಲಿಂಗಕ್ಕೆ ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತ ನುಂಗುವಾತನೆ ಕೇಳು ಲಿಂಗ ಉಂಬುವುದೇ ಇದನರಿದು ಕಪಿಯೇ ನೀ ಜಂಗಮಗೆ ನೀಡು ಸರ್ವಜ್ಞ. This means we can offer tons of food to the idol, and as we are human beings and the Buddhijeevi on this, the only Buddhijeevi on this world who know that any non-living being cannot eat, but still we offer food. We waste lot of things by offering to the idol which cannot talk. And here I want to make a sensitive point. I'm not here to hurt any feelings. Instead, what Sarvajna wants to point is, there are lot of jangamas or the needies or the starving people outside your home. Please go and offer food. You will get a big enlightenment or a big satisfaction to your heart. That's what he meant. Idanaridu kapiye nee jangamage needu sarvajna. So he is calling man as monkey, because we all know the truth that idol cannot eat, but we think twice to give to the real person who is in need of food. ತ್ರಿಪದಿ 4, ತ್ರಿಪದಿ 4. ಆರು ಬೆಟ್ಟವನೊಬ್ಬ ಹಾರಬಹುದೆಂದರೆ ಹಾರಬಹುದೆಂದು ಎನ್ನಬೇಕು, ಮೂರ್ಖನೊಡ ಹೋರಾಟ ಸಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ವಜ್ಞ. This means if somebody says, I can stand with one leg for 24 days, I can jump the mountain, 6 mountains without any rest, the impossible stuff, if somebody wants to claim, you better accept it that he or she can do it. Don't go and ignite a debate, because that is complete waste of time. So this means in our daily life we meet a lot of people claiming a lot of things which might trigger some kind of a comparison which Sarvajna doesn't want us to do. That's the thing he is telling. Murkhanodane horata salla sarvajna. Murkha means he is again labeling the man as Murkha. So don't struggle with such people. Instead, you just wish them the success. Tripadi 5, Tripadi 5. ಐವರಟ್ಟಾಳುಗಳ ಯೌವನದ ಹಿಂಡುಗಳು ತವಕದಿಂದ ಹೋಯ್ ನಿಂದಾತ ಜಗದೊಳಗೆ ದೈವತ ನಕ್ಕು ಸರ್ವಜ್ಞ. As the meaning rightly tells, anger, lust, greed, delusion, pride, jealousy, if somebody is free from all these things, then he can attain the moksha, he can attain the truth, and he can attain the path of light. The path of light is towards the God and not towards the enmity. So this is what I can collect, and I think these are the Tripadis which I felt can apply to the current situation or future or anybody in this world. So again, I would like to thank dear teachers and my dear friends. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Pawan. Wonderful selection and very well rendered. Thank you very much. Any comments, questions for Pawan or Professor Srinivas? We have some time for questions. Before I hand this over to Professor Dinesha for his maybe last words. Okay, so let me request Professor Dinesha, something from you. I think that would be great.
First is this wish everyone a happy Karnataka Day. Actually, of course, the talk was an excellent talk. It gave both from Vivek and Pawan. It gave a sample of the Vachana, the Sarvajna and Basavana, the Vachanas in that time. In fact, as you have seen, it's a 12th century work. Now, even at that time, they were very much, you can see that it is a movement, where it is a social movement. Okay, so from that perspective, their impact on society, on sort of equalizing, basically when they say that there is, everybody is same, and even go to the extent of intercaste marriage, which of course, the price Basavana has to pay also. But even then, you can, one can see that type of movement at 12th century. I'm talking, okay, and it is not like it is a stray type of movement. It had a very powerful followings as well. Now, I think that was one of the greatness of Basavana. He as the as I think Vivek or Pawan described, they are all philosophers as well as social reformers. Even now, you can see the enormous social work done by the mutts and all those places. So I think it is a from in terms of literature, it's pretty very rich literature. I mean that entire period, and in terms of its impact on society, it is enormous. That is, I think, is one of the contributions. Of course, yeah, I thank Vivek and Pawan for I mean introducing these philosophers and saints. Yeah, I think that's what I would like to say at this point of time.
Thank you
Yeah.
for the nice words. Just one comment, Dan, a question. So these vachanas actually they are written in a simple language. Even during this in school syllabus, we used to study this. Then itself we could understand, as
Yeah.
school kids. So I think that's really the hallmark of this type of literature.
Yeah, in fact, you are right. I think Pawan said it is from their experience they talk many times.
Oh.
So whatever you can relate it to the common, what in Kannada we call it Gadegulu. Gadegulu is proverbs. Okay, so in fact many times their vachanas are things are closer to proverbs, and it's out of the people's experience. Okay, so actually this part of it that you take from people experience and elevate it to philosophy. I think it has come for the Karnataka literature from the Basavana and those type of people. Because if you see even D.V. Gundappa's works, they are all philosophical works, but every stanzas he puts, they have a people's experience in it. I mean, yeah, you are right. That is so that's probably one of the reasons why out of the thousands you see, each you take any person reading those things, they will relate something in that to their life. Yeah, you are right. That one.
Thank you very much, Professor Dinesha. Sorry to put you in a spot at the last moment, but
Oh no, it's my pleasure. In fact,
I think,
it's my pleasure to be here. I mean,
invitation we could not resist to have you speak today. And thank you very much, Srinivas. Thank you very much, Pawan, for agreeing to talk today on a Sunday and making this Rajyotsava Day so very special for all of us. And thank you everyone for joining this session. So thanks again. Thank you very much, Srinivas, Pawan, and Professor Dinesha, Swati and Supreet earlier for making this day so very enjoyable for all of us. Thank you.